Gold remains near record highs, and CNBC just ran a headline about wealthy investors who are renting out their idle gold bars to earn income. And this gold leasing strategy they discuss is an idea that's catching on with more and more investors. Gold leasing is no longer a tool that's reserved for central banks or giant institutions only. Regular investors, meaning anyone who owns gold, can lease out their gold and earn a return that's paid in gold instead of letting it just sit in storage and rack up fees. That's the first thing I want you to take away. You don't need to be rich to put your gold to work. But what you do need to understand is what gold leasing actually is and how it differs from gold loans, how to evaluate the risks and returns realistically, and if you do read a news story, make sure you're not overestimating the wrong risks and underestimating the right ones. So before we get into what CNBC got right and what they got wrong, let me give you a very quick explanation of what gold leasing is and why it's become so popular. A gold lease is basically just renting out your gold. You still own the metal the whole time, and a business rents it for a specific purpose, usually manufacturing gold coins or gold bars. Maybe they're displaying gold jewelry in a display case, or maybe they're using gold in an industrial product. In return, they pay you a rental fee that's paid in ounces of gold, not dollars. Think of gold leasing like renting out an Airbnb. You own the house, the guest gets to use it, and in return, they pay you rent, and at the end of the period, you still own the house. That's how a true gold lease works as well. You keep title to your gold, you keep ownership of your gold, and you earn ongoing payments in gold. Now, why is this becoming so popular? Two reasons. First, gold is becoming more expensive than ever. Businesses don't want to borrow cash, buy gold, hedge the price, and tie up their capital. Leasing gold solves that problem by letting these businesses use metal without taking on price risk by buying it. They simply rent the gold they need for their working inventories, and then they buy replacement gold for whatever they need to sell, keeping the least amount of gold available at all times. There's no gold price risk, and there's no need to tie up working capital in a gold lease. Second, a lot of investors love gold, but what they don't love is that it usually just sits there doing nothing. A gold lease changes that. Instead of idle gold collecting dust at home, or worse, collecting storage fees in a professional vault, now gold investors can put their gold to work and earn a return that's paid in more ounces of gold with leasing. That's the core idea that the CNBC article gets right about gold leasing. Gold can be productive and provide investors with income if they want to lease it out. But things get confusing in this article when people mix up gold leasing with gold loans. And that's where this CNBC article runs into trouble. Let's get into the main issue of what CNBC gets wrong, because this is where terminology really matters. Here's the first quote that needs correcting. CNBC says gold leasing works much like a loan, except the asset is in ounces, not cash. That is not accurate. A gold loan and a gold lease are completely different things. Both have their role, but it's important to understand the different structures. A gold loan, also called a gold bond, is debt that's denominated in gold. You hand over your gold, the borrower, usually a mining company, owes you more gold back later plus interest. It's a credit relationship. The gold is on their balance sheet and you are taking counterparty risk. If that miner fails to find gold that they thought they could, your gold loan could be in default. Because of that risk, gold bonds often pay much higher yields than gold leases do, and you need to be an accredited investor to participate. A gold lease, on the other hand, is simply a rental of your physical gold property. You still own the gold the entire time, you're not giving the title to your metal away, you're simply letting a business use your gold temporarily in exchange for rental payments denominated in gold as well. The CNBC article mixes these concepts, and when you mix them, you mix the risks up. If you're getting into the gold yield space, you need to know which product your gold is being put to work in, and this article does not make that distinction clear. Gold bonds have higher risks. They're only available to accredited investors, but they also have significantly higher returns. Gold leases have risks as well, but investors should be aware that anyone can do a gold lease, and the structure of gold leasing mitigates counterparty risk while keeping the title and ownership of your gold with you at all times. That same issue in the CNBC article with wording leads people to misunderstand what's actually happening yet again. They write, investors supply gold to a leasing platform or financier who then lends that metal to a business. This is misleading because it suggests the platform or the third-party business becomes the debtor and owns your gold. That would be a loan. In a properly structured gold lease, that's not what happens. A leasing platform should function more like Uber or Airbnb. It connects you, the lessor, with the lessee, the business that wants to rent your gold, without taking ownership of your asset. In a proper gold lease, neither the third-party business nor the platform is borrowing your metal. The reason this matters is simple. If CNBC uses the word lend, readers will automatically picture credit risk. What if the business can't pay me back? Does the platform now own my gold? That's not the right way to think about leasing. A leasing platform should simply be facilitating lessees and lessors on their platform, not taking ownership of your gold. The same way that the Uber app connects drivers and riders without taking ownership of any cars. Or if you log onto the Airbnb app as a host or a renter, the house never goes to the Airbnb platform. In a correctly structured lease gold is tracked, audited, insured, and always physically present. And importantly, the metal always remains your metal. The risk to focus on in a gold lease is not necessarily default, but operational risk. Who owns the metal? How is the metal being handled? How is it being monitored? Who is insuring the metal? And ultimately, when is your metal being returned? When you blur lending and leasing, you don't just mix words up, you mix the actual risks investors think that they're taking. That's why precision really matters. The last point I want to address is the most dramatic one in the CNBC piece that they get wrong. They write that there is a risk that in a gold lease, quote, they can return fake gold bars or gold that does not have the same purity as claimed or leased out in the first place. This sounds scary, but in reality, it's likely not a meaningful risk. And here's why. First, gold is one of the easiest materials on Earth to authenticate. You can test it by weight, density, ultrasound, XRF scanning, and electrical conductivity. Any reputable vault does this as a routine procedure. This is standard industry practice and not difficult to do. Second, a properly structured gold lease includes insurance that's specified for weight and purity. Gold leases should stipulate what form the gold is being leased in, so lease payments need to match that form to be compliant with the lease terms. Third, most modern leases use RFID-based tracking technology. For example, every piece of gold jewelry can be tagged, monitored, and tracked in real time. Sophisticated lease platforms should be able to see exactly where and in what form your metal is in at all times. And finally, let's just apply some basic business logic. If you're working with established refiners, manufacturers, or jewelers who've been in business in some case for hundreds of years, who rely on their reputation to stay in business, returning a fake gold bar is not a viable business strategy. It would destroy their long-held business relationships and their livelihoods forever. The incentive for businesses renting gold simply does not line up with fraud. So yes, CNBC is right. Every gold lease does have some operational risks, but the idea that investors need to fear fake gold bars being returned absolutely and absurdly overstates the issue. Authentication technology is mature. Gold lease insurance is specific, and the structure and incentive behind gold leasing are robust. At the end of the day, CNBC is absolutely right about one thing. More and more everyday investors are looking to put their gold to work. That trend is real, and it's growing. The key is simply understanding what you're reading about. Gold leasing and gold lending are both legitimate ways to earn a yield on gold that's paid in gold, but they come with different risks, different structures, and different returns. So when you hear the term gold lease, make sure you're asking the right questions. For example, some questions you might ask about a gold lease are, is this a lease or a loan? Does the gold in the lease remain mine? Is the leased metal insured by a reputable insurer? What is the duration of the lease I'm about to enter? Those are legitimate questions that matter about gold leasing, not whether a gold bar is secretly fake or a yellow piece of wood. If you want to learn more about how to put your gold to work earning a yield on gold paid in gold with leases that are structured and designed for transparency and ownership, visit monetary-metals.com. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, and if you found this information useful, share it with a friend. We'll see you next time.